When you think on a global scale, Simon, is Europe less attractive right now than Asia, or I mean, obviously it's deal by deal, but generally, what's the overall consensus for the private equity market?
I think it's an interesting time. I think if Putin does his hostile European takeover, then the value of European assets is very low. So it's very unclear. I think the Europeans are figuring out what to do, and if they do eventually pull together and come up with a sensible industrial policy, which is focused around clean energy and cheap energy, then they're in a very strong position. But right now, they really haven't figured out what to do, so it's hugely risky. That said, I mean, I was in Europe 2 weeks ago. The valuations of technology companies there are ridiculously cheap compared to here. So if you can, I saw 2 funds that are picking up European technology and then bringing them into the US. So they're leveraging the cheap pricing and then coming into the more valuable market over here. I mean, that's a great strategy.
Yeah, that's a great market. This is a question that we often ask, like, what's the number one trend that you might be seeing that 80% of the market is missing? Go ahead, Gary, you start us off.
Is this one, okay. I can't say that everyone's missed it, but there's enormous opportunity in efficiencies in private companies with information technologies. Let's say even as simple as an inventory management system that can read 50,000 SKUs in 2 seconds and tell you what you have in your store.
Right.
We're about to invest in that type of company. And let's say that we're a private equity leverage company. That's millions and millions of dollars. So one thing going for the private equity world and the control transactions is there's never been more opportunity to improve operations with really software and applications. So I think that a lot of people thought about that, but what I think they haven't thought about is the dimensions of those cost savings are enormous.
So then do you view that the market is typically undervaluing that opportunity in general?
It can. And when people, let's say private equity buyers are looking at a company and they know about that, and a family-owned business that doesn't know about that, sure, then they can offer more for the business because they know what can be done. So again, the inventory management, we know how many millions of inventory dollars can be saved, and that goes to the bottom line.
John, I know you said 1, but I'm going to give you 3. All right, you can remember them with the acronym CAT, C-A-T. So cybersecurity, AI, and talent. Cybersecurity is not about risk mitigation, but about value creation. There's a lot of interest now in companies buying firms that have that cybersecurity already in place. So this is something from the private equity world that we're really looking into. On the AI side, it's not just about anything that's AI, but it's how are you using AI for operational efficiencies, as you said. But even from a PE perspective, you've got a portfolio of companies. So how are you using AI to analyze your portfolio companies? Can you use it to find operational efficiencies in one of them that you can then translate over to another so that your full book of business increases? T is for talent, and it's talent retention. We're finding that if you've got a company that has a great culture and great leadership, where you're not having a lot of regrettable attrition of great talent, you can get a premium on your multiple for that. So cybersecurity, AI, talent, it's CAT.
I like that, that's great.
I do 2 of those things. Well, not the first one. Real estate's been slow to adapt AI, but we're definitely doing it, and we found a lot of efficiencies in doing it, and we're trying to be one of the leaders in that and following others that we know in the industry to learn good ideas. But as far as the things that 80% aren't looking at, I don't have an 80%, but I'll tell you 2 things that a lot of people aren't looking at is that in some of these high supply markets, which are real growth markets, you could buy newer buildings way below replacement cost. And temporarily, there's some pain, there's a lot of concessions, and you're not going to make positive cash flow. But if you're in it for value creation and for the long term, you'll eventually get really good cash flow, and you'll create a lot of value in the multifamily. And in student housing, as you talk about recessions and things like that, student housing has been recession resilient in that everybody goes to school when there's bad times, there's not a lot of jobs, people stay in school, and if you're at a major university, you're going to do well.
Yeah, I would say I agree with all of you. I think for me, it's less about 80%. There's just so much information that I don't know if people are missing it. But I will say deal flow and access, I think, is something that a lot of people are missing. Good companies, good deals, and good economics. I think that's something that everybody can improve on. And so, I mean, you know, if I check my email now, we get so many different opportunities every day of what's quality and what's not. I think being able to decipher and go through that process, I'm sure there's families out there where I'm sure they know good trends, but how can we get good access to deal flow funds and companies and good economics? I think that's something that everyone can improve on.
Yeah, I think the digitization of the finance industry, which I think a lot of people have known about it, but because of SEC and other government restrictions, it's been very slow historically in the US. But if you go to other countries, places like China, for example, they digitized their entire finance system 20 years ago. That brings in unbelievable efficiencies, new products, new ways of doing things, which significantly changes the cost of raising capital. So the finance industry.
How would you take advantage of that mismatch?
It's on the private equity side, there are much cheaper ways of raising money than the current way with all the documents, the lawyers and everything else. If you can tokenize assets, put them into a digital format and distribute through digital channels, social media, which we've been doing outside the US now for 15 years. We can do a fundraising and a listing on a digital exchange for less than $30,000. You don't get a lot for $30,000 in the US. Instead of the 5 to 10% fees that people pay for raising money, we can pay 0.1%. So that makes the access to money so much easier for particularly smaller businesses, which is where there's a massive problem in terms of getting funding for small companies. And then it brings liquidity. So because you've got liquidity, then there's less risk. Even on custodian administration, we pay ridiculous fees to lawyers and transfer agents here in the US. All of that should be digital and more or less free.
If you are a founder, raising capital, developing real estate, or you're an investor, we'd love for you to get involved in the Family Office Club. I've run this community for 18 years now. We've hosted 300 live events. We have 17 million social media group members and followers. We have the #1 YouTube channel on family offices. We have the #1 most popular podcast on family offices. You can learn more about us and our membership options at familyoffices.com. We have 30 in-person events planned in 2026 and another dozen events this year. Please go to familyoffices.com to learn more.